I don't care. What you mean is that these natures are actualized through his person, and that his person does these things according to the natures in reality. But he is a composite of these two natures in reality. How is your view any different from the Catholic view?
Because you guys profess that humanity and divinity are truly distinct. We don't argue that.
Bro, oh my goodness.
You guys
If
would
Christ is a
say
composite of
you
two
guys
things
don't.
that are not
Okay,
each
like
other,
I said.
then that
Okay,
means
fine.
that they aren't each other in reality,
You guys,
right?
you guys, in reality, they are one with two parts to it.
Okay, so in reality, it's one thing with two parts. Is this one thing the person of Christ?
Is this one thing? It's his nature. So yeah. It would be yeah, his person.
Right. So you're saying in reality, there's the one person of Christ, and this one person of Christ is made up of two things. And those two things are the human nature and the divine nature, right?
Um, yeah, and they both constitute one nature.
Right. But when you say they constitute one nature, you once again mean the person of Christ, correct?
Yeah, in his person, there's one nature.
Yeah, great. So then what you just articulated is no different than the Catholic position. You're just saying that the person of Christ is a nature.
No, you guys don't say that the two natures in Christ are. You would just say that they're in the person of Christ. You guys wouldn't say that in reality there's only one exist. There's only one thing of which constitutes Christ. You guys would say, "Oh, well,
Yeah,
Christ
so
is
there's
both
two things that
uncreated and
constitute
created."
Christ.
What?
You just said there's two things that constituted Christ.
Said there's two parts: his humanity and his divinity.
Right. And we're saying the same thing. We're saying there's two things that constitute Christ, his humanity and his divinity. These make his person.
No, because you say he can act. For example, you guys would say that uh, Christ, um, God's blood was shed, but in reality, you wouldn't affirm that. In fact, I would argue you guys shouldn't even be affirming the Theotokos.
All right. So would you agree that Jesus Christ is God?
Yeah,
Okay. Did Jesus Christ die?
yeah.
Okay. Therefore, God died.
God died inasmuch as his soul separated from his body.
Right. Yeah, that's fine. That's what we mean by that. But we're predicating it of his person, and his person is God, which is why we say that God died. But his person is also human, which is why
Yeah,
we can say that
I would
human.
argue you guys shouldn't be affirming that. I would say that you guys should be affirming, okay, so his soul left his body. With it, so within one part, you guys would still be affirming that there's two conceptual in reality distinctions of the natures. We wouldn't say that in reality there's two distinct natures. That's where we're running into.
You wouldn't argue in reality there's two distinct natures, even though you agreed in reality Christ is a
I
composited
said in
of two
reality
parts.
there's two parts, i.e., his divinity and his humanity that constitute oh my gosh that constitute one nature.
Right. So when you're saying that the divinity and the humanity constitute one nature, what you're saying is that the divinity and the humanity make the one person of Christ, which is the same thing that we say. So this
No,
is literally just
because
explaining.
you guys would say that Christ is you guys would say that Christ uh has two, like I said, unique and distinct natures. You guys wouldn't argue that a part is a nature. You guys would actually
No,
would
no,
argue that
that's
a part is a nature, but that's not
yeah,
how
I'd
we.
argue I'd argue that the language you're using is incorrect, but the concept is still the same. You're saying that there's two parts, and these two parts are united, or they're the composite of one person, or you say one nature. But what you mean is the one person of Christ. And we're making the exact same claim, but instead of calling them parts, we call them natures. And instead of calling it one nature, we call it one person. So it's literally just a semantics issue. We're saying the exact same thing.
No, because you guys would say in Christ's divinity, he did this, and his humanity did that. As I said, we say that this in his humanity and that in his divinity, because his humanity and divinity are parts of him, and so he can act according to one part and not the other. But you guys would say he would be doing something in accordance with both of the natures.
Wait, what? What do we hold on. When do we ever say that Christ does one action in accordance with both of his natures simultaneously in that action?
Yeah,
Like
you
we
just
never
said God
say
died.
that, right, but we're predicating that of the person, not the divinity. So when
You
we say
you
that,
would need no. If you're going to predicate, then you're going to need to add his divinity to it.
okay, do you think that death is personal or do you think that death is natural? And when I say natural, I mean in accordance with nature.
Like, yeah, I would argue it's natural, as
Okay.
any other good philosopher would do.
And why do
But
you
you,
argue that it's natural instead of personal?
why do I argue? Because it's observed in human nature. It's a part of human nature to die.
Okay, so we don't die in our person, we die in our nature.
We die in our person. Well, we don't die. It depends on what you would define as like. Do you define like a person as something material, or can it be uh, immaterial too? Because I don't believe
Yeah,
souls are material.
personhood is incorporeal.
Okay, sure. So then, your person or your being does not die. Your nature does not die, but your flesh does die, and this is observed by human nature. So within
Wait,
your flesh, you'll die.
okay, right. And you're saying your flesh, meaning that you're predicating it of my person, correct? Because
Yeah, you
your
have
is
one
universal.
nature.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, so it seems to me like every time the conversation gets to this point, and I'm not sure if like the Coptics I talk to say this because they're kind of backed into like a corner and they just want to affirm this when it's not actually what they believe or whatever. But yeah, it seems like at this point in the conversation, every time it just kind of becomes a semantics issue where we're saying the exact same thing, just in different words.
Yeah, well, Saint Severus says the exact same thing I'm saying right now.
Okay. Yeah, and that's fine because once again, I've never seen like a Cyril quote that I wouldn't be able to affirm or reconcile with my theology. And I think the reason for that is because, and I'm assuming it's the same for you, I think you'd be able to affirm most serial quotes with your theology, assuming this is actually what you believe. And the reason for that is because this is literally just a semantics issue, dude. I think we literally believe in the exact same thing. We're just using different words. So,
No, I mean when he says that there is one incarnate nature of the Son to his letter to Nestorius, I think that's pretty bad there. On top of that, if you've read letter 40, he says that there's no longer two natures after the union, but rather there's one incarnate nature after the union.
right. Because, and you said this earlier, the word nature or the word hypostasis, as he would have used it, had two understandings. It had the understanding of person, and then it also had the understanding of nature, as we would say, like human nature or divine nature. So when Cyril's
Yeah, but
saying that there's the
he uses
one
a
incarnate nature, what he means is there's the one incarnate person,
no.
and that's
That's
fine.
not. He uses the word usia there.
Well, sure, even Usia, we have it. It's understanding that Usia has a different understanding, but it's
Usia
fine. Like
means nature.
yeah, I know, but pre-Chalcedonian language is different than post-Chalcedonian language. So when we see a lot of these people like Gregory of Nyssa or Cyril or Basil or any of these other people, I think even um, in certain cases like John Chrysostom, but when we see them using these words, we understand what they mean in light of the context. But
Usia cannot mean person. It means directly nature. There's one incarnate nature after the union.
Right. I understand that in your school of thought, you don't believe that this paradigm shift ever happened, which is why you're saying that this isn't the case. But like I said, we're just going to be talking past each other at this point because um, I think it's semantics. You seem to think it's not semantics. And the reason for this is because you don't think there is ever this language shift. But it's whatever. I'm going to be in Lost Homies if you want to continue.
Okay. Well, you just said that we're both playing semantics, and he left. I still don't. I still don't see how he refuted me. But whatever. He's in Lost Homies if you want to go talk to him. Well, I think that server is just autism. I don't like it because the owner doesn't know like basic philosophy, and he tries arguing for our position. Yeah, and then PR. Actually, I think I might go there. By the way, the quote that he sent uh, against Theodore of Tarsus, uh, he's saying that they're hiding a man under the guise of saying flesh. So he's arguing against that. So in he's arguing and he's stating a heretic's position. It's pretty crazy. I'm gonna go to piano. Yeah.